I think it's super important that anything you're passionate about, anything that has almost changed your life, you need to tell people about it. Welcome to Take Risks, Trust God. I'm your host, Dorian Hurd, but you can call me Dodo, and this is something new I'm starting. If you're familiar with any of the work I've done over the past couple months, first of all, thank you for consuming my content or reading whatever you're doing with it. I really appreciate it. But you might notice my naming has changed. That's not the name of your podcast, Dodo. And you'd be right. And I'm changing it because I feel like I need to. Now, I think it's no surprise to a lot of people that I love Jesus. I'm a Christian and I apply a lot of my Christian principles and values into the things that I film or the things that I write online. But I feel like I really want to have more of that be the focal point that drives people in. I have on my Instagram, I have a verse from the Bible. It's 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 2. And it says, "The Spirit of the Lord speaks through me. His words are upon my tongue." And I did that because I knew with what I was doing at the time with Dodo's Den, it was not going to be explicitly about Jesus, but I wanted people to know that there's Jesus in what I'm saying. But the more I post and I don't explicitly talk about God or Jesus, even though it's so crucial and it's an important part of my life, I realize that I'm growing away from that and I talk less about Jesus. And I'm glad that I'm spotting this now because I don't ever want to leave God out of what I'm doing. And essentially, this podcast will still be about me and my experiences, but it's more of my risks that I'm taking and how I'm trusting God through that, maybe building my relationship with Jesus. And I think it's super important that anything you're passionate about, anything that has almost changed your life, you need to tell people about it. And I don't ever want to keep Jesus out of what I'm saying. And yeah, I kind of just felt a little convicted in a way. I felt like I needed to make this more God focused. And it's mainly because I've done so many things with Christian as the main focal point in the past. I made a lot of Christian trendy TikToks, and that's how I grew a lot of my audience. I made prayer videos off and on. I may start doing those again. And I built a lot of my audience through Jesus and let people know that I love God and let me show you that I love God. And you would think that surely since I got growth from talking about Jesus, I would continue to do it, but it's really not that simple. It's really hard because everything on this narrow path that Christians walk, or if anybody's watching this and they're not a Christian, I invite you in to maybe learn something. But they're always pulling you in different directions, welcoming you, saying, "Hey, this path is great that you're walking, but come try this, come drink this, come interact with these people." And there's beauty in that at the right time. But I feel like I never want to talk too much about my experiences and not mention God, or at least give God glory and praise, because it's so easy to become consumed with yourself. And even though I've done these podcasts and I haven't seen crazy growth, it's such a risk. And that's the point of this whole thing I'm starting. It's such a risk to talk about Jesus and God. So especially make this the main reason I'm doing this, because I know people are going to leave. I know people are going to hear this or even see the title and be like, I don't want any part of that. And that's fine. And I need to start doing it for me to realize that it's fine. And I realize that the things I say aren't special, but they could help someone. And I really wanted to talk to you guys about how I'm trusting God through these risks that I'm taking in life, because I'm consistently taking more risks just like this, switching my podcast to be more Christian based, even though it may reach less people, more people may dislike it, but that's how I feel it should be. I was praying about this with somebody from my church, and they gave me a verse. It's from Isaiah 6, and it says in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 5, sorry. It said, "Then I said, it's all over. I'm doomed, for I'm a sinful man. I have filthy lips, and I live among people with filthy lips. Yet I have seen the Lord of the heavens' armies." And then I think this is Elijah talking, and he has an angel or seraphim flying to him, rubbing coal on his lips. And it says, "Your sin's removed, and your guilt is removed." And then in verse 8 of Isaiah chapter 6, he said, "Then I heard the Lord asking, who should I send as a messenger to this people? Who will go for us?" And Elijah said, I said, "Here I am, send me." And I feel like this whole risk I'm taking of content creation is a risk. I'm saying, send me. I want to talk about my experiences, and I want to help people. Send me. Maybe I can be the voice to help these people. And it's almost like I'm accepting this call from God, but I'm not talking about him enough. And I feel really bad about that. Mainly because I know how easy it is to get to a point where the things you say have nothing to do with God. And you get so comfortable with that because it's normalized to not talk about Jesus because it will run people away, whether people accept it or not. It's so crucial to talk about Jesus if he means a lot to you, which to me, he does. And over these past couple months, I've been seeing him work in my life, seeing him lead me to do things and say things and meet with more people and just walk out in faith, which is a risk in itself. And it's just such a beautiful thing that I want more people to accept and walk into. And maybe they can hear the risk I've taken and see how I'm trusting God and maybe trust God a little bit themselves. And there was one verse. I was in church today and I was flipping through my Bible to find out what chapter or what book we were at because I don't know all the pages and the numbers of the books in the Bible. Hopefully one day I can just flip to them and have them at my fingertips. But I was flipping through Galatians and I saw that in Galatians chapter 1 verse 6, it talks about how there's only one good news, and that's the good news of Jesus Christ. And it says, "I'm shocked that you are turning away so soon from God, who had called you to himself through the loving mercy of Christ. You are following a different way that pretends to be the good news, but is not the good news at all. You are being fooled by those who are deliberately twisting the truth concerning God." And then in verse 10, it says, "Obviously, I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If I'm pleasing people and that were the goal, I would not be Christ's servant." And as a Christian, I think I'm Christ's servant. I'm called to be a servant, to serve people, and to let Jesus be known through my serving to other people. And I want the risk I'm taking risk and trusting God to be what I'm giving people, to be the food I'm giving for them to chew on and hopefully get a little bit of nutritional value. And that nutritional value is understanding Jesus, maybe building their own relationship with Jesus, or maybe even not being a Christian and seeing the value of someone who is taking risk and trusting God. And that's what I want this to ultimately be. And a little bit about the name, I think it's so amazing that taking risk and trusting God is almost a daily practice. Almost everything I do in my life, especially as I get older in my 20s, is a risk. And I have to trust God through it to see the benefit of it, see the joy in adversity or any difficulty I may face. And I think I was struggling a lot with keeping my current title of my podcast and maybe just making it a certain season of podcasts where I make it this name. But I think this should be my name because you can take a risk every day. You take a risk in posting a video and trusting God through it. I think it's so important that people take more risk and they trust God. And you can break those up, but I think doing those simultaneously is amazing and it's so beautiful. And that's essentially what I'm doing with this new podcast I'm working on. Hope that I can maybe invite you to take more risk, invite you to trust God, and stay with me through this journey. I think it's so beautiful that I caught myself before I'm falling, and I'm helping myself realize that I love Jesus. And I want more people to know that I love Jesus, but I also want to share my experience. But I don't want my experience and the fact that I'm gratifying myself or I'm helping other people gratify themselves or I'm helping people not be humble to be the main thing. I want to humble myself before God because God is so important to me. And I know that through every risk I take, I can trust him more. And I hope this series, this podcast that I'm starting, can help you do the same. So thank you for tuning in, watching, listening, wherever you're getting this from. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Take Risks, Trust God. And this is Dodo signing out. Hope you guys have a blessed day and peace.